Hello, everybody. Andy McGovern here from Irwin, ably assisted as always by Andresa Silvera. Thank you for joining us. This is another session in our podcast series revolving around technical functionality of Irwin Data Modeler 2020 R1. In this session, we're going to be covering the bulk editor and report designer. Before we get started, how you doing, Andresa?
I'm good. How are you?
I am just peachy. All right, so let's jump into this. Just so everybody's aware, the purpose of these sessions is to supplement what we have in the Irwin help files. If you're like me, you're not a big fan of reading the entire manual in order to get up to speed with how something works. So what these can be used as is to cover topics in a hands-on approach, but the real meat of the information that you're going to be looking for is going to be contained in the help files. This session, even though we're going to cover a lot of stuff, is really going to be barely scratching the surface of everything that we can do with the bulk editor and the report designer. So just keep that in mind as we go through. As far as the bulk editor goes, it's probably one of the biggest overlooked features of Irwin Data Modeler. Old timers, folks who've been using Data Modeler for a while, they're aware of the bulk editor. And when I say old timers, I am actually referring to myself too. We use this to update data domains. That's probably the most common use case for them. As most of our customers are faced with from their own organizations, they need to build a data dictionary based on their data models. And the bulk editor is a great way to get that information into the model. Now, what you can also do is we're going to look through here. You can update user-defined properties. You can update your column comments, attribute definitions. Literally any object in a model can be modified or changed using the bulk editor. Another example would be to apply themes to all of your tables across the board by using the bulk editor. What we're going to be focused on today, though, is creating a data dictionary and how you can leverage that. So once we go through the bulk editor, we're going to talk about how to use the bulk editor, and then we're going to jump in and look at the report designer so that you can see how to create the data dictionaries using the report designer. I can't emphasize enough that there is a lot more information regarding this functionality in the help files, but hopefully these sessions will get you get your feet under you, and then you could do more research and really get comfortable with the possibilities and the solutions in here. Now, if you use reporting in Data Modeler in the way past, there was a requirement to have crystal reports and all that other sort of stuff. We don't require that anymore. We have our own engine that's baked in here, and we have a lot of pinned reports or templates that you can use to jumpstart your documentation of your data models. So let's take a look. All right, so here we have the world famous publications model. All right, so the bulk editor. The bulk editor is one of the widgets that show up in the workspace. So we've got advisories, the model explorer, the bulk editor, the overview, and the action log. So all these are the widgets that'll pop out. Now, if you're working on the data modeler and you don't see the bulk editor pop up here, you can activate it by going to view and then panes and then bulk editor. Or if you're a hotkey kind of person, you could do Control B, and that will bring up the bulk editor widget so you can leverage it. So the bulk editor is going to look similar to a lot of the wizards that we use. The purpose here is to walk through the steps of identifying what objects you want to use, what attributes or properties you want to modify, and then which of those objects in the model you want to see. And then you can change the display order. And then there's some basic settings that you can make here. So this model, if you've been following our series, has some user-defined properties. It also has personally identifiable information flagged in here. We're going to use this bulk editor to update all of that information. So for this example, I'm going to go, since we're on actually, let me do it this way, a creature of habit. So we'll go on the physical side here and bring up the bulk editor, which I just blew up. And how do I get it back? You go to panes, bulk editor pane. And we'll walk through the wizard here. So the object types, we're going to start with our columns. Property types, we're going to bring in all of the user-defined properties for our columns here. We're also going to bring in our column comments our attribute definitions, the PII flag, and then this other flag, which is update attribute definition to match. And what it will be matching is the column comment. So if you're in the process of reverse engineering an environment to create a data dictionary, and you have a well-documented database, we could leverage the documentation that exists in the database to start building out your logical model and documenting it appropriately. Now, as we look at the bulk editor in here, everything that's gray is uneditable, but everything that's in a white column here is going to be editable, and you could just invoke the editor and make your changes here. This is where you can set the PII flag, and then you can use this to specify that maybe this is relevant to HIPAA. So we can change that around here. We can also, if we hit this flag to update the attribute definition to match the comment, we'll set that here, and then our model attributes will be updated appropriately. So this is way easier than going through each individual object and making changes. But we can make it even easier by taking the model or taking this information and exporting it to a spreadsheet so that we can make our changes directly in that spreadsheet. So I'm just going to pump this out to a Friday document because it is Friday. So we're going to look in the data modeler. And then here's that spreadsheet, the Friday spreadsheet. So this expands the functionality of the data modeler just because you don't have to have the data modeler to do this. So it doesn't take up a license. We can hand this off to our data stewards, or maybe we're responsible for it, but we don't feel like typing everything all over again. So we can use the power of copy and paste to update our definitions, update our comments. If this came in from the database and the definitions are not populated, we could simply do a bulk update here to update the attribute definition to match, and that will start populating all of your attributes with definitions. So let's do just a quick exercise here. I'm a very literal person, so we're going to update these fields. Do a little copy pasta, set that up, save the document, and then close Office because the API doesn't like it to be open. And then we could just bring that back into the model. And everything is updated. Pretty slick, huh, Andresa?
Yes, definitely helps a lot when you are adding documentation to existing databases.
Definitely. All right, so just to keep everybody honest, and that means me, we go out and we look at this publisher information and we look at the comment, we can see now that it has literally been updated. So that's the most common use case of using the bulk editor to get that information either edited in here or you can edit in a spreadsheet. As I mentioned, you can use it for different things. So if you wanted to, say, update your data domains, we can bring that information in, or if you wanted to maybe set your table themes, you could do tables and then theme in here. And then you'll have all of the themes from your model available as a drop down. So that's just another way that you can use this. So you can see very, very powerful stuff. The one thing to keep in mind is literally in the name, it is a bulk editor. You don't use this to create objects. They already have to be existing, and then we'll update the attributes. We do have mechanisms to bring objects in from a spreadsheet, but we're not going to be covering that on our session today. That's a basic overview of the bulk editor. Is there anything you'd like to add, Andresa, before we take a look at our awesome report?
Just in case you need to add objects that you mentioned, add objects from Excel spreadsheet, please reach out to our Urin support at urin.com/support, and we'll be able to help you providing some spreadsheets that can help you bring in existing information.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and definitely reach out to tech support. They're the keepers of that. It is a changing document, and the thing that makes that so powerful is there's a ton of macros that are baked into it, so you can literally, start populating your models very quickly without any reverse engineering or anything like that. Good point. All right, so now let's take a look at the report designer. Now you can create a new report from scratch, and reports can be built as logical, physical combined, or if I was connected to the MART repository, I could generate the report in there. Every object that's in the model can be reported on. So we're going to take advantage of the fact that there's a number of pinned reports that are available in the report writer, and you can use these as a jumping off point to create new models. Now, if you do get, say, a report from us or from tech support, the way that you'd open that would go to open solution. It's a little bit confusing. You actually don't do add existing report. You do open solution, and then you can open up that report that is sent to you. These sessions that we're working on are focused around the standard edition. So we'll look at these two different types of reports, the model reports and model validation reports. When we get to the workgroup edition, we expand that out, and these are what we would call our cross-model reports, because it'll look at all of the attributes from the models that are there from a high-level view. But if we look at the model reports, and this is where most folks are going to land, you'll see that we have a lot of them already set and usable for you. So attribute reports, your domain reports, your diagrams can be generated in here, entities, your logical physical combined dictionary, which is what we're going to look at right now, relationship reports, subject areas, etc. There's also a subset or a different flavor of reports, the validation reports. And these are very useful as you're building these data dictionaries, because you can look for negative data in here. So if you wanted to find, say, attributes with no definition, you can do that with the validation report, just to make sure that everything is documented as you would expect it to. No surprises. That's the easiest way to do everything. And then we could also do that in the workgroup edition and look across all of our models. All right, so let's go in here and we're going to create a data dictionary. And we're going to do a logical physical combined dictionary. And this is out of the box. And if you expand these out, it's going to show you all of the attributes or the properties that are going to be brought into the dictionary. And we want to add some stuff to this because we have user-defined properties. We're going to bring in that personally identifiable flag, and we can update that here. So in my model, I have, I want to see the the flagged information for personally identifiable information. I also want to bring in my user-defined properties, and they're all available right here. And then anything else I want to add into the report can be done through here. Just avoid the temptation to build a giant report. I recommend building a sequence of smaller reports, but this combined dictionary, you can make this as big as it needs to be. So now I'm going to run this report, and we can see it in the report writer. We can see the personally identifiable information and all the user-defined properties that are set in here. So this is where you can actually see the report. This isn't how you're going to be sending this or sharing this with end users, because once you have this defined as a report, you can export this to a CSV, you can export it to an HTML, or you can export to a PDF. Just a side note here, when we have customers that need to export information or data from the model, they're looking for an export button. This is actually the mechanism that we would use. So if this information needed to go to another solution, we can use this to export it to a CSV that can then be imported. And for this example, I'm going to, let's do it as a PDF. So you can export the PDF here, or you can export the PDF up here. Give it a name. That's already there. And now here is the data dictionary within here. And then if we go and we look at it from, let's do this as Excel. can see all of that here. Now, you're probably going to say this looks very similar to what we had with the bulk editor, and you would be absolutely right. You can technically use the bulk editor to generate reports also. The difference between this and what we do in the bulk editor is in the bulk editor, row 1 and column 1 have the UUIDs for these objects to find their way back into the model. So if you're going to hand that off using that template, then make sure you protect them. If not, this would be the way to go. Use a report writer, create these as an Excel format, and you're good to go. You can post them and import them as you would need it. So that's at a very high level how you can leverage the bulk editor in Data Modeler, and then you can create your reports and create a comprehensive data dictionary based on the models that you have. So Andresa, any final thoughts? I think we're good here.
Yes, great job. You covered everything, and just looking forward to the questions we will get regarding to the book editor and reporting.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And there will be questions, but as I say with everybody, if you're in the bulk editor here and you want to get more detail about what is actually going on, here you go. And you can see there's a lot of additional topics that you can drill down through in here. So hopefully this will overcome your apprehension and you can just jump into it and start leveraging these features in the Data Modeler. So with that, we're going to say adieu. And we look forward to you joining us for other sessions as we make them available. But thank you so much for your time, Andresa, and thank you everybody else for joining us. Have a great day and stay tuned.